Hanging out, just another night of the week. Or to be more specific, it's a Tuesday Eve. Got some ideas that just might intrigue. You should come on by tonight. We're spilling the beans.
All right.
Hello, we're live.
We're back.
Sorry for this puttering. I'm fixing the mic.
Audio test. Can everyone hear?
I think so.
I think if we can hear it, they can hear it. Thanks for.
I can't hear you. Talking.
Hello. Yeah, I can hear me.
Okay, yeah, I can hear
Yep. Yeah, you're coming through.
Yeah,
you. Okay.
we're all coming through. It's all good. Thanks for tuning in again. If you tuned in last week, we had a Spitfire, but it actually turned into a Pogcast. No, we ended up talking about Pogs and all the cool things you can do about Pogs and do with Pogs. Recycling, kind of a vintage, but very, very affordable and plentiful like product like Pogs. So John had a really cool idea of, can I show your piece? So the idea was to put. You want to explain it while I show it?
Yeah. So the idea, we had a few ideas, but the one idea I really wanted to kind of test out was on guitar pedals. They have these little discs that can go onto the pedals because the pedal button itself is very small, and so there are companies that are making these bigger discs that lock onto the button so that you can hit them better with your feet. I think it started as like some people want to use their bare feet when they play live and they could hit them a little better. And I just thought that it'd be cool if you made one out of Pogs, because at least I thought they were roughly about the same size. They are not. Pogs are much bigger, but still very cool. And they're not going to be completely perfect because on some pedals they're going to be too big to see the LEDs on the back. But I did do a prototype of one.
Yeah, so it's on like this.
Yeah, you just snap it
I
on.
want to get it in the light. Yeah, so
Yeah.
here it is. This particular Pog
The
Stomper is Bill Paxton.
Bill Paxton. Yeah,
and Apollo 13.
yeah.
It's hard to see. You can, if you want to adjust the focus. Let's see if we can get a nice shot of Billy.
All right, zoom right in over there.
Hard.
There it is.
There we are. That's good.
And
And
so
then focus it a little bit. Oh, that's the rim. Other way.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
See
And
down there?
oh yeah, so there's a Pog in there. And Connor, if you push the top, you can actually pop the Pog out. So push it and the Pog comes out, and you can put any Pog you want in there. I did Bill Paxton for Connor because Connor's a huge fan. And then you can put the cover back on and it holds it in place. And it's pretty tight, but I think it works pretty good. And then you can stick it on the guitar pedal knob. On the button on the guitar pedal. Yeah, so if you just push it on, give it a little push, and then you can press the button, and it's a nice big button to press. It'll make your pedal board look really cool. It'll be a little bit ridiculous, but that's kind of the fun of it.
Yeah.
And I have that was definitely an early prototype where I used kind of cheap materials to make it. I think the second iteration will be a little bit better materials and maybe like some screw holes to actually tighten it onto the button.
Yeah.
Right now it's kind of at the mercy of how long the plastic lasts before it wears down.
Oh, okay.
So
taking it in and out.
yeah,
That makes
taking it
sense?
in and out, eventually it's going to loosen up.
Yeah.
So you can drill pilot holes through the sides and actually hit the button on the inside,
Oh, okay.
which keeps it, so you can always tighten it up. So I'll do that on the next one. And then from there, I think the third iteration will be completely encasing it and turned into a mold, which we can make them out of resin, and it will have a screw top instead of just a pop top.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
it'll actually screw onto the top, and the whole thing will be clear. And I think where that's going to be cool is if there's an LED that's underneath,
Mhm.
you'll still see it, and it might even illuminate the whole outer rim of it.
Okay,
So
yeah.
that
that'd
instead
be
of being,
cool.
I think so. I hope it works like that.
Yeah.
But instead of actually seeing the, instead of it just blocking it, it might illuminate the rim around it, so you can kind of see the color through the,
Yeah.
whether it's on or off, through the actual resin around the
Mhm.
outside. So
That's pretty awesome.
yeah, I think 2 more iterations, and I think we'll have it. And I don't know what we'll do with it. I think like my plan was I gave some to pretty much everyone here,
Mhm.
and have people use them as I come out with the second one. I'll have people use them, and then the third one, same deal. And if it works, I don't know. Maybe we'll. Maybe we'll start a website. Kaylee, I think you've been talking about doing a website.
Mhm.
Maybe we'll start a website and we can just put them on there. Maybe
Yeah.
people are interested in getting them. Maybe I can even put the files if people want to. Just for those of you that have 3D printers, you can print them off yourself.
Mhm.
And I'll put all the different iterations in case you want to go in a different direction with how they're constructed. And yeah, I think it'd be cool.
That's really neat. I like the idea that Abel had just brought this up last week, and now here we are.
Yeah.
We have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. And
Yeah.
yeah, he kind of gave these as like little gifts for all of us.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Really
I'm very new to the 3D printing world.
Yeah.
So it's fun to have little,
Test
more
projects.
simple projects that I can kind of mess around with. And yeah, there it is.
Mhm.
Very, very cool.
There it is.
Well, yeah. And that's kind of the idea of the show about ideas is, you see it come to fruition, or you see someone else like bring it to,
Yeah, it's funny. It's like I think we had the idea of these things being things that we might never end up getting around to.
Mhm.
But so far, I think we've kind of pieced together all the things that we've said. It's almost like lit a fire under us, and we're kind of just actually doing it,
Yeah.
Mhm.
which is
Going with
like
it.
It's
kind
a
of
good
cool.
way to give momentum to the ideas.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Yeah. And also momentum for other ideas.
Mhm.
yeah,
Kind of just keeps your mind like kind of lubricated with that. And hopefully maybe it's doing that for people who are like listening or watching.
yeah.
Yeah, and that was, so I came up with another idea last week, of I've been seeing a lot of neat things with artists, or I don't know if they're also like interior designers,
Mhm.
doing stencils basically on walls, or even projecting onto walls and then drawing over it, tracing over it, to do these kind of murals, these especially larger scale murals, which is really cool. And they're, I don't know what to say. Like I don't know any of the rules really in the art world, like in regards to like, oh well, you're not illustrating it, it's not your art. But then I thought like, yeah, but you can make this like a freeze frame from your favorite movie, you're not mass producing it, but it's just a cool thing you can do. You can project it onto your wall and trace over it, and that'll even teach you,
Form
things
and
like
stuff like
exactly.
that. Yeah.
And then who's to say also, what if it's a picture that you took, like a really nice picture that you took, and then you are stenciling it out or tracing it out. And then it's like, well, it doesn't matter like who thinks any of it. It's just something cool that you're making, and at the end of the day. But I love the idea of we started to do remember when we had the idea of making our own like audio baffles, and like how do we design the cloth? I'm sorry, I'm sweating so much because we turned the fans off. But how do we design the cloth, kind of like put our own designs, or without paying a company to send? So we started doing like permanent marker with I think we used a overhead projector, and would stencil over that, or trace over like another piece of paper or something. But so right behind me, I could just get up and show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want me to zoom in?
No, we don't have to do that. But I think they should be able to hear. I'm just gonna pull
You want me to bring it over here, or you?
No, I can kind of show from there.
Okay.
I think that's all right. We'll see. Yeah, we luckily we have a preview right here
Yeah.
on the big screen.
Well,
Oh, sorry.
go ahead. I'll hold it.
No. That's cool. That's nice. Okay. So what we have here is, I think people can probably hear this. What I have, so I was thinking with the idea of tracing, like, and this is already an invention. It's like you can find it elsewhere.
Mhm. Not too dissimilar from like document camera kind of thing.
It's like, from what I've seen, it's like a document camera. It looks just like a document camera, only it's doing the opposite. It's like it's showing the image, like
Mhm.
spraying it down, which is really cool, and that's probably cool. But that was like $250. So I tested with this projector, like how far away from the wall does it look ideal, like for maybe for a canvas, maybe something not too small, like not like a postcard, but like what sizes and ranges of canvas can I get on this? And of course, that's also dependent on the surface that you make. Like, because as I started to build it, I said, okay, I know roughly like the size of the image, but the legs also have to. So let's see if they can see it. So from there, it looks kind of weird, and it's also not very stable. So I'm going to actually disable it. But here's the projector. The idea is the projector shines down, and there's a hole. Not yet. This is still a prototype in the works, but there's a hole on top of this piece, and it's basically just a tall table.
Very tall table.
A very tall table. That's why it's still a little flimsy. I'm probably going to put some like stability pieces, like, over here. But yeah, the idea is hole goes here, projector shines through to to kind of a canvas. I kind of like that these legs are wobbly because I can stretch them out, so you could fill a bigger canvas or a bigger piece of cloth or something underneath. And I'm thinking my idea for it is to rekindle my passion for taking photos, because I kind of stopped taking photos. But if I start taking them again, and then doing this kind of cool medium transfer of this digitized product to a more illustrative.
Yeah.
So essentially, like, the idea here is to be able to trace different images onto different canvases that you run through the projector, right? So you take a picture that you took, you shoot it down onto, say, just about anything, a canvas, or if you're doing a painting or whatever, and you can essentially trace the photograph you took, as well as anything you can literally run through a projector. You can do it, and it still would work going towards a wall. Be interesting if it was a very multifaceted. It could even shoot up to the ceiling if you're doing ceiling murals.
So I do have like mounts that can do that kind of thing, right? Like from all the ceiling mounts we've done, it's just flip it upside down.
Yeah. I immediately think of a camera rig. So they have these camera rigs, I'm sure you guys know, that you can mount a camera onto, and it's like a track, and it basically allows the camera to be pointing directly down at a table, so you can do something on a table. For instance, show a comic book or something, and it will film what you're doing. But sort of a jig, which is basically what you got here, a jig that can hold the weight of a projector, which really that's quite a big projector, but they have very small projectors.
Wicked tiny, really small.
They have projectors that weigh less than cameras. And so if you had some sort of jig that can mount, in fact, it wouldn't surprise me if there was a thread somewhere on a projector.
Well, there is a projector that I found that's it's not too pricey. It's like $250 for like the quality that it's pumping out, and it looks like a smartphone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like the size of a smartphone, and it does exactly what I want, maybe more.
Yeah.
Because this is an older lamp projector. So
so some sort of jig that would be very interesting, something that could go pretty much in any direction.
Right.
Spin around, and it has a track that can go up and down.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you can basically put a mural on just about anything. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
That would be neat.
Wasn't there a camera you said too that it's like one of the little handy cams, but it also does projection?
Yeah, like some of the early, not that early, but I would say like maybe mid to early 2000s, or maybe 2010s or something. Sony would put out cameras that also had a projector on them.
Hmm.
So you could view your footage, and they were small. They were like the handy cams were like that big,
Right.
and the flip screen would flip out, and it would also have a projector on it that could project whatever you wanted to watch onto a wall or something.
Well,
So
yeah, it's
crazy.
neat.
And it's crazy how like that technology is, 10, 15 years old.
Right.
And you kind of look at the stuff today and it's kind of like boring
Mhm.
compared to like some of like the stuff they were cramming into simple camcorders that were very, very portable.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, it's like an entertainment system as well. The fact that
Yeah.
it can display a video.
yeah. But even something, I mean, there you go, right? That has a thread on it.
Right.
That is literally a camera, right?
Right.
So that could go on a jig like that.
Mhm.
And if you're doing something like down onto a table,
Mhm.
you don't have to worry about. I think that projectors go higher in price based on the wider and bigger image that they can
but
project.
especially the luminance, like
Luminance.
how
How
bright they
bright.
can be. Like
Okay.
this is a pretty decent projector for the early 2000s, and
Yeah.
by my standards, it still is. But
Yeah.
for one that you can get really bright during the day, like beaming hours of the day, this is useless.
Yeah.
But there are projectors that they're also, it's laser, so I don't think
Mhm.
it's that safe. Also, because the newer ones are all laser projectors, so
Yeah.
like
It's not safe to be looking. Well,
yeah,
probably
even
not.
like walk by it. Like I see we have a projector at my work where you see sometimes people would just walk by it,
Yeah.
and it's like a high powered laser projector that's beaming onto like a stadium type
Well,
scenario.
what are
and
like
it's
the
just-
smaller ones? Like
They're
the
probably the LED or
LED?
maybe it is laser. Maybe they are using laser technology. I don't know about the smaller ones, the tech of the small ones.
Mm.
They
It's
probably
not-
have bulbs, right? Little bulb ones.
do they?
They might, but I mean that technology. So if they are, maybe LED bulbs of some type. I would imagine it to be, especially when you get to that size, LED. But it could be laser too. It is kind of a shock that we didn't see more portable projection units growing up
Yeah.
or
I don't-
anything.
I
'Cause
don't know
that
if
was there. That kind of was like it's the reverse. You know what I mean? Or maybe
Mm.
there is a more technical reason I'm not aware of.
Well, what I saw with cameras
Mhm.
and I think projectors is when everything went up to the 4K, that's when everything just had to be bigger.
Mm.
It could no longer be these like small pocketable things. I mean, I know you can get pocketable cameras now,
Mm.
but they lack so many features compared to what the older ones did.
Right.
And I feel like it's all because of needing to bump up to 4K.
Yeah.
Like even if you look at like early Sony like point and shoots
Mhm.
from even a few years ago, if you go back like 6 years ago,
Mhm.
the point and shoots could only shoot 5 minutes of 4K video because they'll overheat. Even bigger DSLRs were in the same way. I think
Right.
I'm pretty sure you had a Canon, maybe a Rebel.
We have two, the T5i and a T2i.
Yeah, and they would
yeah.
overheat. So
Yeah. Yep.
I think that in general, like at least where we stand, like in order for something to be very feature rich
Mhm.
and to project a sort of 4K image, they need to be big just for cooling's sake.
Great point. Yeah.
You know?
They need the fans.
Yeah.
Yeah. They need to be able to.
But
withstand the
in a
fans.
situation like this, if like, you're talking about 5 feet,
Mhm.
4 feet, 5 feet.
Yeah, this is 40 inches. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're talking about something like that, HD is totally fine.
Yeah.
Like you have no need for all this crazy detail.
Especially with tracing. No, you don't need any of that. That's why I'm fine using like even that, like the quality might not be that great on that little camera I saw online. That's what's tough about buying it for $200. But at the same time, like you don't need great quality. It's so
Yeah.
close. If you can get a good image that close.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like this is just PVC. This is just like 2 pieces of long PVC, and it is the worst table like ever. You know what I mean?
well,
Right now,
yeah,
but you start.
it's a table with a hole in it. That's like, you could even repurpose a table that you found.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know
That's
what
true.
I mean?
That's
and
true.
just put a hole in it and be able
Right.
to achieve similar results. But I think of like things like laptop stands where they
Yeah.
they have raising and lowering.
Right.
something like that could work. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's a cool idea.
Yeah, it's I mean, sky's the limit with it too.
Yeah. I actually saw a video recently of someone who makes rugs. And have you guys ever seen how, like, not a rug like this, but like maybe a smaller rug that was
Like
sort of,
woven ones? Or-
yeah, they use like this gun, but it'll be like a rug of Pikachu, and it'll
Mm.
be in the shape of Pikachu. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yeah.
And what he does is uses a projector to project onto the canvas, and then he goes to the back of it, and because you can see through the canvas, you can do it from the other side.
Oh.
And he uses the gun to trace the
like the colors and the
the
different
colors,
designs.
and by
Whoa.
the end of it, you have a rug of Pikachu, and
Yeah.
it looks like it only takes him like a day to pump one of
Wow.
these out. And another,
Like a high quality one too.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
yeah. So there's so many uses for something like that.
Keith said
Yeah.
too, it's similar to the old way of projecting film onto paper for making photographs in a dark room. Like
Yeah.
that design.
I mean,
Yep.
it's the same, it really is. And when you think about it too, pushing back, like how many, I mean, you can't find enough, 8mm projectors. They're
Mhm.
everywhere. Like
Yeah.
you can get them so cheap on eBay.
Yeah.
So there was a time where like they wanted to re-show this footage that they just got. It was more, I guess, so at the time when they did make those camcorders with all those neat features and it only seemed to get better, they did have a little bit of a, like with it, maybe you'd get cheaper, the same brand 8mm projector,
Mm.
and they were really tiny too. They were portable, so you could show it anywhere.
Mm.
So that was like more of a thing, like projecting for some reason. Yeah, it's interesting how they kind of just,
They have ones
I don't
now
know.
that can fit in the palm of your hand that you can plug into like an iPhone.
That's crazy.
But I don't know, like how big can the image get if it's that?
Well,
that
also,
tiny
I think
of a
not
thing,
big.
you may not
right?
need
I'm
it that
pretty
big too. You may just need it to be like, the width of a wall that you're staying at a hotel or something, or
Mm,
like think that, or a tent. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
you
Yeah.
could be camping and
Yeah.
just like, you guys want to watch a movie
Yeah.
and like put like a flat white canvas across the top.
Hmm.
Or
Hey,
not even.
If them being that small, you do wonder if you can jig something up to where a drone has one on there.
Whoa.
So you could not even need the table. If, like, let's say you needed to do something high up on a wall or on a
Yeah.
ceiling,
Yeah.
You
so
just have
that's-
it hovering
Yeah.
there.
Well, what you need there is like really good battery life, and that is something that
Oh, for
drones
the
don't have right
drones.
now.
I think
Yeah.
that they're like, I feel like the newer DJI ones can do like 40 minutes or something.
That's crazy because my buddy he does drone footage like a wild amount of it, and he's getting really good, and for the footage he gets, he's like, I started to run out of time because he's got 4 to 5 minutes
Mm.
for like what he's doing. Now he's getting like crazy trick shots and going nuts, and it's a tiny drone, so maybe and I imagine the larger the drone, the bigger the battery,
Mm.
right? So that makes more sense.
So where else could you use,
But
this
that's a
sort
great
of
idea,
ideas?
Abel. Like
Oh, Shelby said projecting on your guys' tent at the markets.
Yes,
Mhm.
that's really, yep. We probably should do that. It's a really good idea. So we have
flashy.
I do markets. Me and Shelby, we do markets that I sell my artwork at. Not farmers markets, but anything, festivals, all
artists
that.
markets.
We use
type, yeah.
pop up canopies,
Folk.
and they all have to be white.
Mhm.
And I guess you could brand a canopy in that way by projecting it onto the canopy and then painting, or probably painting, I would imagine,
Yeah.
would be the way to go. Maybe markers.
Just don't forget, it's during the tests that you do them all during the day, because during the day, like that's super bright. You know what I mean?
Well, you mean to test? Well,
Like,
I would
if it
imagine
can
like,
show like during the day within the tent. You know what I mean?
oh yeah. Well, I would imagine that like if you were doing, you'd probably want to bring it into somewhere where you could control the lighting.
Yeah.
Like if you were really doing it, like you'd want to be in a dark room.
Mhm.
I would imagine you would work on it in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like that would probably get you the best results, I would imagine.
Look at this thing.
Wow, that's crazy.
This is the mini one.
Wow.
That's really
I
cool.
don't know if
How big of
Oh yeah, that's pretty good. Tilted a little.
down.
Tilted the other way.
what are the specs on that? Like, how big of
No.
an image can?
Oh wait.
There you go. Yeah, keep going down, down, down.
Nah,
Now
Let's
turn it
see.
the other way. I
let's
saw
see.
it for a second. Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can kind of see it.
We're gonna figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty
we're
soon.
working on switching things so that we can make it kind of smooth.
We'll probably have stuff on the computer projected up on there in some way.
That too, yeah. So we're hoping to get some picture-in-picture, swap things out,
Mhm.
and have stuff on the projector.
But yeah, that's pretty small.
Yeah, that is
That's,
tiny. That's the one. That might be the one that I saw on Amazon.
You know,
Yeah,
it'd be
it's
an
on
interesting
Amazon.
thing for so it's common for like street artists to make stencils
Mm.
and sort of
Yeah.
but that would be an interesting, have a little pocket projector
Oh man,
to your phone,
yeah,
and then you could go put any sort of street art anywhere.
Yeah. right.
And I mean, you'd probably have to paint it quick or have some sort of way. It's not exactly a stencil, but if you had time to work on it.
A good thick, like just like paint marker.
Yeah.
And just like
Mhm.
just do the outlines of something really simple but cool, or
Yeah.
anything, even a design. Yeah, that's like a little bit complicated.
So my truck got tagged one time when I was in Brooklyn, and it was definitely marker. Like, it was not paint. So yeah, they must have some sort of markers that
Mhm.
you can find cool things and do street art with it. You'd be able to trace your art there. That's interesting.
That would be awesome.
Yeah,
How much is that one?
179,
that's what I would guess. Probably
Yeah.
around $200.
10% off.
Yeah, yeah.
Kodak.
Right. Kodak.
Really?
Mhm.
Really
Yeah.
interesting.
That'd be cool
Yeah.
if they had like a comeback, like of going into like the
Yeah.
tiny projector industry.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think this brings up a bit of a larger conversation that we were talking about a little bit earlier, and the idea of tracing.
Mm-hmm.
Is it art?
Right.
And I've actually put some thought into this, and to me, art is something that happens up here in your brain, and your hands. As far as drawing goes, playing guitar, anything that's art, that's just the output device, right? So conceptually, for me, for anything to be art, it all happens up here, and you're just finding a way to get it out.
Mm-hmm.
So how I feel about it is, whatever helps you get out what's up here quicker is no different than whether you're very well trained and you get it out in a more traditional way. I don't think that, though someone who's more traditionally trained can probably
produce it quicker.
Not even produce, probably maybe not even quicker, but more beautiful results.
Right.
Yeah.
Like finalized
and just someone who's very, just like a guitar player, someone who's kind of very well trained in guitar playing, as opposed to someone who says, I want something to sound like this, and then you just kind of learn that or whatever.
Mhm.
I think that regardless, it's still art.
Yeah.
And an example of that was, I'm a big fan of the American Splendor comic books.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one artist that always stood out to me. His name was Jerry Shamray. And he was actually Harvey Pekar, who was the writer of American Splendor comics. He wasn't an illustrator, but he wrote all the comics, and they were about him. It's, autobiography comics. Always said that was his favorite interpretation of himself. And that's a pretty high standard. Robert Crumb was drawing for those comics.
Right.
And I was always amazed by these works that he did in the comics. And so I did some research, and I found that what he would do was he would have Harvey actually go pose, and he would take pictures,
Mm-hmm.
and he would just trace the pictures.
Whoa.
And what you end up with, now I'll preface that by saying he had a very unique style. He developed a style, and I actually heard an interview with him. He said he developed a style in art school.
Mm-hmm.
And they were results that you could not get any other way,
Yeah. Right.
right?
Hmm.
And that kind of opened my eyes to like, well, if you're looking for a specific style, if you're developing your own style and you're using tracing means to get there as opposed to traditional drawing means, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, that clearly spoke to so many people and it emotionally connected with them that it doesn't really matter how you got there. It just matters what the end result is and how it connects with people. Now, I think the problem with tracing is always going to be that it's very easy to rip people off.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
And this
Exactly.
even brings up a larger
And that's no
discussion.
bueno.
This brings up a larger discussion with AI
Yeah.
and how easy it is with artificial intelligence to rip people off with art.
Hmm.
But there's also, if the artist uses that technology properly, whether it's tracing or artificial intelligence or whatever, if you use it properly and you're developing yourself in it, you're developing your own style, and ultimately the goal is to tell a story or to create something that's in your head that you just have to get out. I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters how you got there, whether you're the greatest artist, illustrator ever, or you trace it off a photograph. If you're getting your point across,
Hmm.
that's what matters.
Right. Well said.
Yeah.
Real well said, Abel. That's
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a terrible place to leave it. I like that.
Yeah.
That's
Do you
really
guys
nice.
feel the same way?
Yeah.
Totally.
I agree,
Oh, yeah.
definitely.
No, it's always been a thing, and that's something I actually love about art. Is you can have, in any form of art, let's say music, you can have a band that has someone who's not classically trained at all, like who's self-taught with any instrument, and right next to them on the same instrument have someone who is, or on a different instrument, and they are, and it's just the results are always going to be different, but it's results from them. It's a unique result. It's a genuine result. And it's unique to them, and whereas, and so, yeah, and there's kind of this balance if you wanted to like see what spectrum anyone is, but it's really like, it's just what they want to do, whatever you want to do, if you think it is. And of course, if you're literally tracing someone else's style and
that's bad.
Yeah,
It's just bad.
what AI does is bad, like what that's basically what that is. And I think that's not a terrible way to go into the idea too, like where someone says, check this out, this is something I did, and I see this online often in like illustration forums or drawing forums, and it's AI. It's clearly AI. And I think some folks might have a better eye for it than others, but what's all they did was type in a few words, or you can even send a shape and say bear car, and you've got this weird looking bear car monster that's, you know what I mean, that doesn't, and it kind of looks cool. But what that's also doing, what AI is doing, right? It's pulling from databases of other artists' drawings and style, and it's just not. To me, that's not like really art,
Right.
It's tough for me to say that anyone actually did anything. Nobody suffered to do this, in the sense of like this person who did this, there was no emotional struggle or even thought that was put into it.
Well, here's where I would push back just a little bit on that. I don't believe text to image prompting is a bad output device. I don't think that the idea behind artificial intelligence art, is bad. And what you're referring to is something like Midjourney,
right? Exactly.
which those companies have done things that are, I would say, wrong.
Yeah.
Where they've just scraped the entire internet or specific artists, and they've used their work to train an AI to give you something based on your text. Fine, but all right, now take the concept of AI, right? And let's say you have it on your computer, and currently it has nothing in it. It doesn't have any sort of training whatsoever. It has not scraped the internet or anything. And let's say you start feeding it your pictures,
Right. That you've taken. Yeah.
images you've taken. Let's say you start feeding it your art.
Right.
Let's say you draw in a traditional way and you are a comic book illustrator and you need to pump out a comic every month,
Mhm.
right? And let's say you train it on your style and your art
Mm.
to the point where you can get these ideas out using text.
Right.
I do not believe that that is wrong.
Yeah.
I think that that is an advancement.
Yeah.
And there'll always be room for traditional artists to
Right.
do things in a traditional way, but it's just another tool in that
Exactly.
regard.
Utilizing it as a tool. Yeah.
In that
Right.
regard, that's all
Right.
it is. It's another tool and it's faster. Where it becomes an issue is where, okay, these companies just scrape the entire internet and they're literally mimicking other artist styles, which is inherently, I would say, wrong.
Yeah. Well, also publishing companies that are like that are publishing a comic book, you know, based on a script that they might have wrote.
Yeah.
But every image in there was not made by a human.
Right.
You know what I mean? And now so that's also eerie. That's seeing it literally take the jobs of almost everybody, because you have things that can also now write script for you.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. The issue is always going to be, as technology gets better and as this stuff progressed, just like when it went from analog to digital in
Right.
music,
Right.
there's plenty of bad hands it can get into that can do
Mhm.
things that inherently an artist should be in charge of, or a
Right.
musician should be in charge of,
Right.
right?
Right.
So that is always going to be an issue, and it's going to get worse and
Yeah.
worse. But I think if like they went in the right direction, it could be a very useful tool for an artist.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
you're
and
right.
I
it's
think of
already being used as that, you know. I think that's cool.
I think right now how it's being used is like currently it's like these text to image prompts, like
Yes.
like I said, they scrape the internet, and what people are doing, because technically it is not a work of any specific artist that they're ripping off. People are quickly like making these images and selling them on Etsy or all these other
Right.
platforms, because technically no one owns the copyright to them,
Mhm.
right? Because they can't, because the way the law is structured, anything that is generated through AI cannot be copyrighted. Only things that are created by humans can be copyrighted. So I think what's happening is people are just making money quickly right now.
Mhm.
I think what's going to happen is the hammer is going to come down,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden it's going to be like, no, you can't just take this stuff. But then, I'll even push back against myself, and I would say, how did hip hop start?
Mm.
Were they not
Sampling.
taking samples from other artists
Mhm.
and manipulating them and putting them out as new music? I mean, that's how hip hop started. And
It
you
sounded
know,
Were they
great.
getting the rights to all that music?
was
that They
art.
were taking?
yeah,
It
it was
sounded great,
art.
yeah.
And like you just said, getting the rights. Early hip hop, there were no rights.
Mm.
Like they were just grabbing whatever, and ultimately it became an amazing art form,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So you do wonder, I don't know, is there something to maybe it's scraping in some way, where it is more of a derivative work than it, because that's what I would consider hip hop, like a derivative work, right? Especially something that's sample based, right? They're taking from a drum line from an old jazz recording, and they're putting new stuff on it. To me, that's a recycled derivative work, and
Mhm.
that's totally legal, and
Mhm.
that's totally an art form
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
itself.
Absolutely.
So you wonder if there's a little bit of that plays into this. I
Mhm.
think right now it's like so extreme in one direction of just like blatantly ripping things off, that like it's going to come back a bit. And I think we're all going to eventually get to a point where we can settle on, okay, humans are in control of this. This is art,
Yeah.
Mm.
right?
No, that's true.
And there's also the argument too. So, like you were saying before, the art is in here, and the means to get it out doesn't mean that much. It's just the point of like
Right.
the result. Some people would argue that the process and the way in which that you get it out there is like the art. Like think about like from analog film to digital, like how much some filmmakers would still say like you don't do digital at all, that's like cheating in a way, that's like the easy. So because it's an easier tool to use, is it less of a craft? Some people will look at it that way probably, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
it's like
always-
you're not
yeah.
putting in the work of like cutting the film, and if we mess up this strip, like we're screwed and we have to start again from the
Yeah.
beginning, as opposed to like I don't like the shot, delete, boom, like next thing.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
so
right.
like
Mhm.
the convenience could be argued as like, well, it takes less of like craftsmanship to do that.
Yeah.
Kind of
And
thing.
I'm really trying not to be that
But it's
type
all how
of
you do
bigot.
it. Yeah.
I'm trying not to be that bigot with AI, but the points you make, Abel, are like right on. It's like, just tool brush function, you know, in a thing like Procreate, like types of learning like that, or I think even the idea that the Droplet tool that's been around forever
Mm.
is an early like proto form of AI. You know, it's you're saying, look at this, and I want it for this.
Mhm.
So you can take colors as long as it's within the spectrum that it can understand.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a fun discussion. We're doing on time. Just do it.
45.
Maybe
I guess we'll end
over
it
there.
there. Yeah.
we could bring this up again next week. It's a fun topic, and it sparks other ideas and then questions ideas. Which is fun.
I think it's fun because it's not clear cut.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
It's almost a moral issue.
Mhm.
It's
Personal.
it's an issue on what we decide art is.
Yeah,
You know,
which everyone has a different definition too.
like what I would say with what you were saying about film, I would say that that's a skill,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And I would say that doesn't, it can help you get out a very unique idea,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. And if you're good at it, just like, you know, but if you think about like the White Stripes, right? Like I think like the drummer from the White Stripes always got shit in a time where all of their beats were very simple
Mhm.
around a very heavy rock time when, you know, things were a bit more complex. And I think that she got a lot of shit for being very simple in her drum. And then we kind of look at it now and we're like, that was amazing.
That
was great stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
But, you know, maybe lacked technical skills as opposed to like John Bonham or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But
There's a simplicity at the end of the day.
at the end of the day,
Exactly.
right? That was
Mhm.
the idea.
Mhm.
And they, you know, they got it out with maybe what you might say was a less skill,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't change the fact that the art is the art, right? And
Yeah.
that's what they wanted.
Exactly.
That's what they were looking for. So,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
so yeah, let's end it there.
Yeah.
That's good.
Thanks for joining, and
Yeah.
I think we'll do this again next week. We're not sure what we'll discuss, but we said we're going to hold off on discussing what we're going to discuss the next week because we might either forget or we might come up with something better. So that way nobody's holding us to that. But
Yeah, maybe eventually, I think it'd be fun for us to get a list going,
Mm-hmm.
and on a day where we're not totally sure what we want to do, maybe we can just call it out to the chat and let people kind of
Okay.
vote on it,
Yeah.
and
that'd
we'll
be
start
fun.
talking about that.
that's like
Yeah.
that could be the Spitfire kind of like
Yeah.
What do
Mhm.
y'all got?
Yeah.
That's great.
That'd be good.
And then we can just vote because some people might come up with things that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining.
Hanging out just another night of the week. Or to be more specific, it's a Tuesday Eve. Got some ideas that just might intrigue. You should come on by tonight. We're spilling the beans.